Okay, so because some download is happening right now, I'm going to show you guys Infraworks real quickly first. So basically, to start a basic Infraworks model, you need only one thing, and that is a DEM shapefile, or not shapefile, image file that you can get from this website here. So you guys already know how to download that. So for this tutorial, I decided to do something a little bit fun. And if you guys want to follow along, you can, what you should do is you should find some really cool geological feature in the United States and download a DEM for that place. Because we're going to do a very simple terrain model, and I'll show you how fast and easy it is in Infraworks. For my tutorial, what I did was I downloaded, let me see, Mount Rainier. You guys know where Mount Rainier is? It's a volcano. So I downloaded a volcano, and I'm going to just set the coordinate system to Washington North. Okay. So this is the volcano right here. So what we're going to do is, with just this alone, we're going to make a model of this area. Now, the one thing I should note before we do anything else is that when you bring this kind of information into Infraworks, every single pixel of this image, so if I zoom into this, just this little part right here, you can see the pixels of this image. Every single pixel is going to turn into a mesh cell in the final model. So basically, the higher the resolution of your DEM image, the higher the resolution of your model will be, and as a result, the bigger the size will be. So there is a balance you got to play here. Do you want to have a more detailed model and yet have a slower, larger file size? Or do you want to have a lighter model and have something that runs much quicker? For the purposes of this, I want to show you guys just straight up raw DEM image and how it looks like when it's modeled in Infraworks, because it looks pretty impressive in my opinion. I'm actually going to add another thing as well, which is a series of aerial images. So let me just insert a few of these guys real quick. Sorry. So basically, I want to make a model of this area here. So I drew a bounding box using drawing tool, and now I'm going to convert that into a shapefile, convert graphics to features. Okay, so I'll just call this bbox Rainier. Okay. Okay, so once you have your bounding box set up, basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a model within this region here. So then open up Infraworks, and you're going to want to hit the new button. So in your user interface here, for the 2015 version, there might be a slightly different user interface, but in general, I believe there should be a new button up here where you can make a new model. And if you guys have any questions how like your version might look slightly different, just ask me and I can help you guys. So when you click new model, it's going to give you a few settings that you need to set up first. First, obviously, is a name. So we're going to call this one Mount Rainier model. It'll probably ask you for a location to save it, and for most of you guys, you're going to want to save it just on your desktop, so it'll save my computer, and it'll probably just give you a default folder in your documents folder here. The more important thing you want to set up right now is this tab called Model Extents. If you click on that, there's this checkbox called Define Model Extent, and this is why we made that bounding box in ArcMap, because we want to load this bounding box into here so that we build the model only of that region, and this actually makes the model making process a lot faster. So I'm going to go to, let's see, okay, so it's right here called bbox Rainier. That's the shapefile I just made, so open that. It's going to ask you, do you want to use the polygon or do you want to use the data extents? Basically, the polygon is actually the literal polygon that you drew, and the data extents is basically a bounding box around the polygon that you drew. They're similar. In the case, since you drew a rectangle, it doesn't really matter which option you choose. I'm just going to choose Use Data Extents. It's going to fill this in with a range of numbers. And when that's set up, just click OK. There's other options here like advanced settings and design standards. We don't have to worry about that for now. So just click OK and just give it a second. So what we have here, if we look at it from top view, so you see here, this is the basically user interface of Infraworks in a nutshell. There should be a little view cube in the corner, kind of like what you'd see in AutoCAD or what you'd see in Revit. And basically you can see the north, east, south. This box here, if you just go back to ArcMap, is the exact size of this box here. So this is what we set up in ArcMap, and this is what we brought into Infraworks. If we zoom out, you actually can see where it's located on the Earth. So my point is that Infraworks knows exactly where it is. So Mount Rainier, it's in the Seattle region of the state of Washington. So this is correct. We know it's in the correct place. But the actual model is only going to populate on this area right here. So Infraworks, for your guys' Infraworks, I believe you guys should have this little orange button in the corner. And if you open that orange button, you'll get these series of options of things to do. The one that you should focus on when you're starting out is this one that looks kind of like a Rubik's Cube right here. If you click on that, I believe there should be an option called Data Sources. And this is basically your table of contents. This is how you bring all your information into Infraworks and begin to model that dynamically. And there's a bunch of other features here, and I'll explain them as I get to them, whenever I get to them. And when you start playing around this program, you notice that the controls, your mouse controls, are a little bit different from everything else. The left click is actually the rotate. The right click is the pan, and then obviously your zoom in out is your scroll. So you just get used to these controls. It's a little weird. The way you add data is you click on this little button in the corner here. There's a little drop-down item here, and you can see these are all the file types that you can add into Infraworks. So the ones that are most important are obviously the top one here, 3D model. This is how you're going to bring Rhino models into your thing. This is how you're going to bring Revit models. This is how you're going to bring SketchUp models. You can also bring other objects as well. There's a Revit option here as well, but actually I believe it's easier to use this tool here, and I'll explain exactly how to do that if you want to bring Revit into your model as well. The raster option here is extremely important. This is how you bring topographic information into Infraworks. And obviously the SHP, which is shapefile information here. So for topographic information, you want to use the raster. So click on the raster option. And then you want to navigate to where you saved your DEM images. So I'm going to say Washington, Mount Rainier, DEM. And I'm just going to double check in ArcMap which one it is, because I don't need both of these. So it's this one right here. It's called NAD 1947 122 by 00. Just that's what it is. So let's just find it. It is this one right here. You always want to add the disk image file. Usually you can just tell because it's usually the biggest option in the list here, the IMG file. So click on open, and you see it's going to automatically bring it in as a terrain. You don't see anything yet because we need to configure it. So the way you configure an option is to double click on the item. You're going to see all these options here that you're going to be confused about. You're not going to quite sure what to do with it, but it's really easy to do. Basically, if you want to model terrain, you want to make sure the type in this type line here is set to terrain. Ground imagery is just a picture, and terrain overlay is just a dumber picture, to put it in a way. There's a few interesting options you can do here, and I'll show you some of these options in a second in terms of like changing the location and scale of this. But since this DEM image is already in the right location because it's a GIS data set you got from USGS, you don't need to mess with this information here. The most important line is this coordinate system line right here. Generally, I say leave it as the default, whatever it is that you get to start with. And if it doesn't work, then you might need to adjust this coordinate system to fit, say, the site that you're working with. In general, I'd say 90% of the time, if you just leave this line as its default, it should work. And then in the raster, this gives you a few other options of what to edit with. In the case of terrain, you actually don't need to do anything with this tab here. So see, I didn't really do anything. All I did is just kind of open it. And then what you need to do is you need to click on this button called Close and Refresh. right here, close and refresh. Clicking OK does nothing. Closing and refreshing does everything. So it's refreshing. Just give it a second, and you'll see in a second. Now, like I said, I think, in my opinion, this is the best topographic modeling tool that exists right now. And I think this pretty much shows why. You can see there's an incredible amount of detail in this terrain here. You can see all the, in this case, it's the volcanic, it's a volcano, so it's a volcanic, I guess, outflow that's kind of creating these landscapes, but also the terrain of the mountains. You can see everything. And like I said, this is geographically accurately modeled. So if you wanted to do, say for instance, a quick sun study, you would go to, I believe it would be in 2015, this little TV icon up here. And there should be an option called Sun and Sky. And it brings up this little fun toolbar here. And what you can do is you can set the date, you know. You can set the time as well, so you can do some cool sun studies as well. Now I'm showing you an example of a naturalistic area, but in professional practice I would use this for urban areas, actually model cities. But this just shows you the power of what this can do. In the 2015 version on this little TV tab, I believe, and yeah, I believe it should be either here or here, one of these two icons, I can't remember. There should be an option called Visual Effects. In the 360 version, you got to get to that option by clicking on this little conceptual view button up here and clicking this little gear right here. This gives you a few more visualization settings that are pretty powerful. First is all these brightness and contrast adjustments, so you can adjust the brightness of the image if you wanted to. This I always leave at 50 because you can always adjust the actual contrast and brightness in Photoshop or After Effects or whatever program that you want to use later. Light intensity, this kind of adjusts how powerful the sunlight is. So if you increase that, it makes it feel like you're on Venus, and if you lower it, it's like you're on Neptune. There's this sun color option. I love this option. If you turn it off, it just does a rendering with the color of the actual image itself. But the sun color kind of adds the tone of the sun and the blue shadows that are a lot more realistic, and I kind of like that actually, so I like to leave that on. But this is purely personal preference if you want to turn the sun color on or off. You can choose some of these dumb options here in this colorize option here, so you can turn to a grayscale drawing if you are into that kind of thing, or you can turn to a sepia map if you want to make a Western landscape because you're into cowboys and Indians. But I obviously leave it at normal 100% of the time. Down here in the rendering option, you get a few options in terms of how to render this option. So the high visual quality option here is the reason why this tab is the most important, is because you can turn it to low visual quality by just checking this box here, and the model will run a lot faster. So if you're actually just making your model, if you're just adjusting it and you're adding things to it, I would turn this check to low visual quality. But then when you want to do your final rendering or your final animation, you check this box and it turns the shadows on and makes everything a lot more realistic looking. The wireframe option is an interesting function that actually shows the actual mesh wires. So like I said, if you zoom in here, you actually see this is actually a mesh. If I turn off the wireframe, you see it turns back into a surface. And like I said, each mesh here is a pixel on your image here. So the higher the resolution this image is, the smaller your mesh frames are. Basically, all I'm saying is this program does not reduce the quality of the actual raw data set. So when I say this is going to give you the highest quality terrain model, it is giving you the highest quality terrain model because it's not reducing the quality of the data that you're getting. There is this option called animation. So if I put the camera to a more ground level view here, and I turn on animation, you see the sky moves. So if you're gonna make an animation, you might want to have the sky, move for some reason. And in the sun and sky settings, you can turn the wind speed to something like really fast if you wanted to. You can turn the cloud cover to like, really cloudy if you wanted to. These are stupid options, but they're there if you want to have some fun with it. Actually, I generally leave the animation off because I don't need it. Then the show sky option. I don't think the show sky option is in 2015, but that just turns it off. And then there's a surface opacity. All this makes is the surface invisible or visible. Kind of a pointless one, but it's there. And then but then the most important one is this last one here called view to view. So this is where you begin to start taking your images and your drawing and start to curate how you want it to feel. Do you want it to feel like you're in a helicopter and flying through the site, in which case you want to turn the view to view to something really high? Or you want to make it more of a diagrammatic view. Say you want to produce some kind of overall site view or rendering, and you want everything to feel more even, in which case you turn the field of view down to something low. And it only goes to 15, so this is something that you can play with as well. Okay, so this looks great. Now we want to add actual picture onto it, and we want to drape an aerial onto it. So in here, I also downloaded a series of, like I mentioned, NAIP aerial photographs. And so I'm going to drop in, I think one of these. I think I only need one. Let me just see which one it is real quick. Okay, so I'm going to add an aerial image on this by going to Raster. And I have this folder called NAIP Imagery. So if you have a folder with a lot of ortho images that you downloaded from, say, USGS, and just FYI, I got these images from USGS, so this is also available, freely available to you guys. If they're all in the same folder, you can actually just select them all at the same time and add them together. And the cool thing is it kind of stitches them together so that their histograms are equal. So sometimes when you add these aerial photographs individually, the colors don't seem to match for some reason. That's just because the actual domain of their color ranges are slightly different. But if you add them at the same time, it actually matches them. So actually this is the superior way of adding images if you download them, a lot of them. It's going to take a little bit longer to process, but it'll look good. So the same way, you just double click on the image to configure it. And like I said, I just leave it at the default here, whatever it is. And then just click close and refresh. It's going to save it as the ground imagery, so that's good. So click close or refresh. And yep, it shouldn't take too long. So let's just see how that looks. As it loads up. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Have you guys ever seen Jurassic Park? Because this totally is like Jurassic Park. I'm gonna turn the view to be to something really high. And here's a cool thing that you can do. If any of you guys play video games by chance, you should know that when you're playing first-person games, you use the WADS keys to move around environment. You can actually use those tools, use that in the same exact way. So I'm using the WADS keys to actually like kind of fly through the site here. So if you're into that kind of thing. So there you go, Jurassic Park. That's if you want to make your project like Jurassic Park, that's how you do it. Anyway, I digress. This is what the actual image looks like, and you guys can see it looks amazing. If you just have two simple data sets that you get for free, you can produce a very, very convincing looking image. And actually you can see like some of these areas like this little lake high in the mountains. This kind of, it's a really fun way to kind of explore cool geologic areas in interesting ways. There's a cool little puddle right here, or a pond or something. One random thing, and this is something that Rory wanted me to show him last week, was there's Awaken Mix Channels in this tool here. So you can do this in ArcMap as well. I didn't show you guys that technique because I just didn't show it to you, but if you're interested, I can show you guys if you want. But basically, you can use this imagery to mix channels and basically isolate vegetative areas to kind of show that in isolation with, in contrast with areas that are not vegetated. Basically, it's what's known as false red imagery. All you need to do is basically double click on the image here, go to Raster, and just set the RGB bands. Right now it's set to 1, 2, 3. Set that to 4. 4 is the alpha band. 1, 2. If you set it like that, then click close and refresh. This will take a second, but it looks really cool. So basically, this is the result that you get, and all it's doing is basically taking every area that is ground cover or tree cover and turning it into a very, very bright red, and then turning everything else into either a grayscale or bluish tone as well. So this is how you can begin to analyze tree cover and vegetative cover in areas in a bit more of a diagrammatic way. So it's kind of cool looking. It's kind of like Mars. Anyway, I think that's more or less how you set up a basic model in Infraworks from scratch, just using 2 basic data sets, a DEM image and just some imagery. So with that, I will end.